At dinner, my boyfriend tried a breakup test his friends had planned, expecting tears and begging. I simply paid the bill and left. 6 months later, every one of those friends sabotaged their own relationships and walked out of his life, leaving him completely alone with the choices he made. Hey, Reddit. I'm Elena Cruz. I'm 32, and I spent 2 years in what I thought was a solid, healthy relationship until my boyfriend and his three genius friends decided to test my loyalty by staging a breakup on our anniversary. I know, it sounds like something from a bad drama series. Before it got that stupid, though, it was normal. Good, even. So I'm going to start at the beginning. I'm a freelance designer. Logos, website layouts, marketing graphics, random branding projects. Nothing glamorous, but it's steady, and I like choosing who I work with. I'm sarcastic by default and pretty straightforward. I don't do disrespect. I don't do games. If I'm with you, I'm all in, but I expect the same energy back. Bare minimum. I wasn't even supposed to go to the reunion where I met him. My best friend, Kale, bullied me into it. You need to remember what sunlight looks like, he said, flicking the edge of my laptop screen shut. Unless you're planning to marry your monitor. Get dressed. We're going. So I went. The event was in this mediocre hotel ballroom, badly lit, with a playlist that sounded like someone pressed shuffle on every playlist from 2012 and never looked back. Kale immediately disappeared, of course, on a personal mission to roast people's haircuts and complain about the DJ. I ended up near the food table, nursing a plastic cup of watered-down punch, scrolling my phone and mapping my path to the exit. That's when I heard a laugh. A bright, unfiltered sound that made a few people turn their heads. That was Leo. He was standing a few feet away, staring at a flyer taped crookedly to the wall, some ugly poster with a dog on it advertising a fundraiser. His brow was furrowed, like it had personally offended him. The dog looks like it has taxes to file, I said without thinking. He looked over at me, then at the poster again, and burst out laughing. Not a polite, oh, that's funny chuckle, a real laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Poor guy, he said. Got a 9-to-5 and a mortgage. We ended up talking right there, in front of the tragic dog poster. He told me he volunteered at an animal rescue on weekends. I teased him, asking if he was collecting sad creatures for a future army. He grinned and said, only the dramatic ones. They keep life interesting. He was easy to stand next to, calm, a little goofy, genuinely interested in what I said. No weird posturing, no forced charm, just present. From there, things moved naturally. We started texting, then grabbed coffee, just once. Once turned into a street fair, then a walk around a lake he liked because, as he said, the ducks here look like they've seen things. Those early dates were simple. Coffee shops, bad food truck tacos, late-night walks. He had this way of talking with his hands, almost like he was folding the air into his sentences. Around animals, he was soft, almost protective. Around me, he was steady and practical, but never cold. He'd tell me about bottle-feeding kittens at the shelter and chasing a runaway beagle through traffic. I'd complain about clients who wanted 10 logo revisions and still ended up choosing the first one. He'd listen like there was nothing else going on in the world. And with him, I found myself talking more than I usually do. I'm not the type to open up easily. I keep most things on a tight inner circle. But with Leo, it didn't feel like a risk. He didn't flinch at my dry humor. He rolled his eyes, threw it back, and met me there. Kale eventually got pulled into the situation, because of course he did. He's the kind of friend who can insult you and somehow make it sound like encouragement. He's tall, calm, and sharp as hell. If someone disrespects him or me, he fires back with laser-precise sarcasm, never raising his voice, never losing control. We've been friends since early college, so our dynamic is second nature. Jokes, blunt honesty, and the kind of loyalty where I could call him at 3 a.m. and he'd show up without asking why until after coffee. When Kale met Leo, he didn't roast him. That alone was a miracle. Later, Kale pulled me aside and said, "He seems normal, don't ruin it." That was essentially his version of a wedding speech. The first 6 months with Leo were everything you're supposed to want. Smooth communication, no constant arguing, no weird disappearing for 3 days antics. We split chores, supported each other's work, had good chemistry, and didn't weaponize each other's vulnerabilities. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't overthinking. He made effort. I made effort. It worked. It wasn't perfect, obviously. There were side characters. Leo had 3 friends. Tessa, Belle, and Nova, who circled his life like a permanent advisory board. At the beginning, they were just background noise. I'd see their names pop up on his phone. We'd bump into them at group hangouts. They were more noticeable than concerning. Tessa talked too much and analyzed everything like she was gathering data for a thesis. Belle radiated this automatic distrust of men that leaked into random comments. Nova was dramatic in a live, laugh, love, but make it tragic kind of way, always trying to turn normal moments into cinematic scenes. Still, none of it felt like a deal breaker, just quirks. By the end of the first year, I had zero doubts about Leo. I wasn't naive and I wasn't love blind. I just genuinely believed we understood each other. The chemistry was natural. The trust felt real. Even Kale admitted, he's solid, keep him around. Coming from him, that was as emotional as it gets. If you'd asked me then how I saw things a few years down the line, I wouldn't have hesitated. Long term. Apartment upgrades, maybe a house eventually. Dogs, real future stuff. What I didn't know was that the people I was brushing off as just his friends were going to become the wrecking crew for our relationship. It started with a simple invitation. "Hey," Leo said one afternoon, leaning against my kitchen counter while I stirred something that was hopefully going to resemble pasta. "My parents want you to come over for dinner. They really liked you last time." His parents were sweet. Soft-spoken, kind eyes, the type who remembered your coffee order after one visit. His sister Mara was sharper, calm, observant, the kind of person whose silence made people nervous because you knew she was cataloging everything. I agreed, obviously. Meeting his family again felt like a milestone, a good one. I pictured a modest dining table, his parents, Mara, maybe some old photos pulled out, gentle teasing, normal conversation. What I walked into instead: his parents' house, warm lights, the smell of roasted something, and Tessa, Belle, and Nova already sitting at the dining table like they lived there. They had full plates in front of them, glasses, inside jokes mid-air. They turned to look at me with synchronized smiles that felt just a little too rehearsed. "Oh," Leo said, way too casually. "Yeah, they were already here hanging out, so I told them to stay for dinner." It wasn't my house, so I smiled, greeted everyone, and took my seat. But as I sat down and watched the three of them spread out across his family table, something in my chest tightened. Small, but real, like the faint tremor before the ground begins to move. Dinner started off normal enough. His mom asked about work. His dad ranted about traffic. Mara poured everyone water, making little jokes under her breath. If you froze the scene and squinted, it looked like a totally regular family dinner. Then Tessa leaned forward. She sat directly across from me, elbows on the table, eyes sharp behind her glasses. "So, Elena," she said, like she was opening an interview, "you're still doing freelance?" "Yeah," I said, cutting into my food. "Mostly branding and web stuff." "Interesting." She tilted her head. "Why freelance instead of something more stable?" The tone wasn't curious. It was clinical. There was a subtle implication, like she already didn't approve of my answer and was waiting for me to talk myself into a corner. I shrugged lightly. "I like choosing who I work with, and I hate offices. Fluorescent lights make me want to commit crimes." Across the table, Leo's dad chuckled. "Can't blame you there." But Tessa was unfazed. She nodded slowly, like she'd discovered a new data point. That usually means someone struggles with authority or long-term direction. The fork paused halfway to my mouth. I smiled, small and sharp. "Or it means I don't like wasting my life in a gray cubicle. But sure, you can put that in your report." Mara covered a cough that was definitely a laugh. Leo shot Tessa a look, but he didn't say anything. He didn't stop her. He just watched. Belle chimed in next. She sat beside Tessa, arms crossed, posture tilted just enough to signal she was on alert. Every sentence she delivered had a built-in eye roll. Leo's mom asked how our relationship was going. Basic parent question. "It's good," I said honestly. "We communicate well. We split things. No major drama, which I appreciate." Belle's lips twisted. "Yeah, it always starts that way," she said. "Guys always seem great in the beginning. Then you see their real side." I raised an eyebrow. "I mean, I've seen Leo's real side. He leaves cabinets open, and he's physically incapable of folding laundry on the first try. But so far, no secret double life." His dad laughed again. Leo's mom smiled. Mara's eyes flicked to Belle with a hint of irritation. Belle wasn't done. Later, when I mentioned I'd fixed a shelf in my apartment myself, she snorted. Figures, she said. Guys always swear they know how to fix things until they make it worse. Luckily, I replied calmly, I fixed things correctly the first time. She rolled her eyes in a way that screamed, sure you do. Meanwhile, Nova was in her own self-produced movie. She perched on the other side of the table, chin propped on her hand, eyes wide and dreamy. Every normal moment became a metaphor to her. Leo mentioned that we once missed a bus on a trip and just ended up walking instead. Simple story. We laughed about how we got caught in the rain. Nova inhaled like he had recited poetry. Moments like that are tests, she said. It's about seeing how someone reacts. If he runs after the bus, that shows passion. If he gives up, that shows his true nature. I blinked at her. Or, hear me out, maybe it was raining and the next bus was 6 minutes later, so we just waited. Nova nodded like I was missing some cosmic truth. Still, every moment in a relationship reveals something. Not everything needs deep meaning, Mara cut in calmly. Sometimes a missed bus is just a missed bus. The table went quiet for a second. Tessa's jaw tightened. Belle's expression cooled. Nova glanced away, clearly not used to being challenged. I watched Leo. He smiled awkwardly and took a sip of his drink. He looked uncomfortable. But he still didn't say anything, didn't redirect, didn't pull his friends back. All through dinner, Mara quietly ran interference. When Tessa started dissecting another one of my answers, Mara shifted the topic to her own work. When Belle made a snide remark about men being trash, Mara redirected to ask Leo's dad about a story from his job. When Nova started turning someone's random breakup into a grand statement on how men never fight for love, Mara gently asked Leo's mom about a recipe instead. She didn't snap, she didn't start drama, she just refused to let them hijack the entire evening. Elena, I thought, watching them, you're not imagining this. They're testing you. The weird part? Leo wasn't. He seemed split, laughing with his dad, checking in with me, clearly proud to have me there. But every time one of his friends made a sideways comment, he went quiet, like he'd been put back in his place. At one point, when his friends were deep in a conversation about some coworker's breakup and how they'd have handled it way better, Mara caught my eye across the table. Her look said, I see it too. After dinner, everyone drifted into the living room. Leo's parents put on coffee. Belle and Nova spread themselves out on the couch like they owned it. Tessa settled into an armchair, scrolling on her phone with a little smirk. Leo's mom tried to talk to me about my work, but every time I answered, one of his friends jumped in. Oh, Leo told us about that client. Yeah, we told him he deserves more stable work. He could do so much better if he stopped letting people take advantage of him. They talked about his life like they were co-managing it. Leo didn't correct them. He didn't say, I'm fine. He didn't say, I chose this. He just sat there, expression tight, like he hadn't noticed how suffocating it looked from the outside. At some point, Mara pulled Leo into the kitchen to help with dishes. Her tone made it clear it wasn't a suggestion. I stayed in the living room, answering his mom's gentle questions, while his friends whispered among themselves like they were running strategy. A few minutes later, on the way out, the real conversation happened. Leo walked me to the front door first, gave me a quick hug, and went back in to grab something from the dining table. I'll be right back, he said. As soon as he disappeared, I felt someone step up beside me. Mara! She opened the front door, letting the cool air hit both of us, but didn't step out yet. Her voice was low, careful. I talked to him, she said. My stomach tightened. About his friends, she answered. About how they insert themselves into everything, every decision, every conversation, every answer you give. I exhaled slowly. And he defended them, she said simply. Said they just care about him and that I was being dramatic. Of course he did. I stared out at the driveway instead of at her. Okay, I'm telling you this, she continued, because you deserve to know what you're walking into. I like you, Elena. You're grounded. You don't feed into nonsense. But if he keeps letting them run commentary on his entire life, this isn't going to end well. Her honesty stung, not because she was wrong, but because she wasn't. I appreciate you telling me, I said quietly. She nodded. Just keep your eyes open. Don't ignore what you see, because you like him. That line lodged in my chest. Before I could respond, the door swung open wider. Leo reappeared with my jacket in his hand, oblivious to the weight of the conversation that had just happened. Hey, he said, smiling. Forgot you left this on the chair. I turned back toward him, masking my expression. Thanks. We said our goodbyes. His mom hugged me warmly. His dad told me I was welcome any time. The friends tossed me short, polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. As we walked down the path to my car, Leo slipped his hand into mine. "So?" he asked. "What did you think?" "Your friends are trying to dissect my life like a case study. Your sister is the only one willing to say it out loud. You're standing in the middle, pretending it's all normal." I swallowed those words. "Dinner was nice," I said instead. "Your parents are sweet." He smiled wide, satisfied with that answer. "Yeah, I'm glad you were here." On the drive home, he talked about how fun it was, how everyone gets along, how his friends fit in so well with his family. I stared out the windshield, listening to him, feeling something small and intangible shift under the surface. Nothing catastrophic had happened. No screaming, no thrown plates, no dramatic storming out. Just a dinner. Just a few comments. Just a sister's warning on the porch. But as the streetlights slid across the windshield and Leo kept talking, I realized something that made my chest go cold. Tonight was the first time I felt like there were 4 people in this relationship instead of 2. And once you've seen that, you can't unsee it. The weeks after that dinner didn't explode into chaos all at once. It started small, quiet, almost unnoticeable, until it wasn't. The first shift came on a Wednesday. Leo and I had planned a simple movie night at my place. Nothing elaborate, just takeout, blankets, and the terrible action movie he'd been begging me to watch because the explosions are artistically meaningful. 30 minutes before he was supposed to come over, he texted, "Not feeling it tonight." No apology, no explanation, no reschedule. Just cancellation. I stared at the message for a moment. It wasn't the canceled plan that bothered me. It was the tone. Detached. Flat. Like he was waiting for something. Waiting for a reaction. I typed back, "Okay, let me know next time." No passive-aggressive edge. Just acknowledgement. He didn't respond. The next day, he acted like nothing happened. But something in his energy had changed. It wasn't obvious. Just small things. Like mentioning, out of nowhere, "Some girl at work said my shirt looked good on me today. She was definitely flirting." I blinked. "Oh?" He shrugged, watching my face carefully. Guys get hit on more than people think. I kept my tone neutral. "Then I guess you should wear that shirt more often." He didn't laugh. He didn't smile. His eyes narrowed, just slightly, like he was trying to decode why I didn't react the way he expected. 2 days later, he did it again. We were walking to my car after grabbing lunch. A woman passing by glanced in our direction. Barely a glance, honestly. Leo immediately said, "Did you see that? She totally checked me out." I snorted. "She looked past you to see if her Uber arrived." He frowned. "You're not jealous?" "No," I said plainly. "Should I be?" He didn't answer. That night, he picked a fight over me, forgetting to respond to one of his midday texts. It wasn't anger, it was performance, manufactured tension. He repeated the same phrasing twice, like he was rehearsing. "You didn't even check in," he said. "That's concerning." I blinked at him. I was working, that's it. He waited, as if expecting me to chase, apologize, beg. I didn't. He deflated a little, and that's when I recognized the pattern. These weren't independent behaviors. They were tests. Tiny, predictable tests. Leo had never been the type to stir drama. He wasn't insecure, he wasn't controlling, and he wasn't competitive about attention. But now, he looked like someone waiting for invisible checkpoints. And every time I passed one calmly, he responded with a mix of confusion and disappointment. A few days later, I told Kale everything. He didn't even let me finish. "Oh, absolutely not," Kale said, dropping onto my couch like a judge delivering a verdict. "You're not dating a boyfriend. You're dating a group chat." I snorted. "It's not that bad." "Elena," he held up a hand. "He canceled last minute to see if you'd panic. He baited jealousy. He picked a fight over a text. That's textbook emotional adolescence." I rubbed my forehead. He wasn't like this before. "Yeah," Kale said, because before, the 3 gremlins weren't whispering in his ear. I didn't correct him. I couldn't, because deep down I already knew he was right. A couple days later, Mara reached out. She didn't sugarcoat. "Has Leo been acting weird?" she asked bluntly. "Yeah," I admitted. She sighed, sounding exhausted. "I talked to him again. I told him his friends are influencing him too much. He got defensive, said they're looking out for him." I pressed my fingers against my temple. "Did he say why he thinks that?" "They tell him he's too forgiving, too accommodating, that he needs to make sure someone is worth him before he commits." I exhaled slowly. "That sounds exactly like something they'd say." Mara made an irritated sound. "They're projecting their own failures onto him, and he's listening." Then she added something that unsettled me. "Elena, be careful. This isn't going to stop here." She wasn't wrong. But the moment everything finally clicked together wasn't something someone told me. It was something I heard. by accident. Leo and I were sitting on my couch one night. I was sketching a design draft. He was scrolling through his phone next to me. At some point, he tapped a voice message without meaning to. His phone volume was up. Nova's voice poured into the room, bright and clear. You have to test her loyalty, Leo. Like, actually test it. Pull back, cancel plans, mention other women, create friction. If she doesn't fight for you, then she's not serious. My pencil froze. Leo's body went rigid. Nova continued, loud as ever. You need a woman who reacts, not someone who stays calm when things get difficult. Leo scrambled to pause the audio, but the damage was already done. The air went cold. He stared at the phone. I stared at him. He swallowed. She didn't... Leo, I said, voice steady. That's exactly what she meant. He didn't respond. He didn't apologize. He didn't deny listening to them. He just stared at the blank phone screen like he wished it would swallow him whole. That message explained everything. The canceled plans, the jealousy bait, the manufactured fights, the tension, the forced reactions. It wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't even him. It was instructional. And what bothered me wasn't just that his friends told him to do it. It was that he listened. I should have walked away right there. But 2 years is a long time. You don't throw that away without at least looking at all the pieces. So I stayed. Not because I made excuses for him, but because I needed to see the full truth before deciding something that couldn't be undone. A few minutes passed in silence before Leo whispered, You've been cold lately. I'm reacting to how you've been treating me, I said. He looked confused, conflicted, like this wasn't the result he'd expected when he started the whole mess. By the end of the night, he barely spoke, but something had shifted in me. A quiet click, a line drawn. Whether I said it out loud or not, I was already beginning to detach. And the timing couldn't have been worse. Our 2-year anniversary was a week away. I still had the restaurant reservation. I still had the weekend cabin booked. I still planned to show up with the same effort I always brought. Not because I was trying to win him back, but because if the relationship was going to die, it wasn't going to be on my conscience. The next part of our story, the part where everything finally cracks open, it happened at that anniversary dinner. And trust me, it was a masterpiece of disaster. Our 2-year anniversary landed on a Friday. One of those symbolic dates, the kind you remember even after the relationship dies, even after the dust settles, even after the last message is read and deleted. Despite everything, the canceled plans, the jealousy baiting, the tense silences, the damn voice message, I still kept the reservation at the little restaurant where we'd had our first official date. Quiet place, soft lights, good food, a restaurant where things used to feel simple. I also booked a weekend cabin 2 hours away, one Leo once mentioned wanting to visit. I'd made the reservation weeks earlier, back when the relationship still felt steady. I didn't cancel it, not because I was hopeful, but because I wasn't going to let his friend's influence rewrite my integrity. When the day arrived, Leo showed up at my apartment dressed nicely, a button-up jacket, the cologne he only wore for special occasions. He looked good, but the smile he gave me wasn't real. It didn't reach his eyes. It didn't soften his face. It didn't feel like him. He looked wired. We hadn't even backed out of my parking lot when he checked his phone for the 3rd time. You good? I asked, glancing over. Yeah, he said quickly, just thinking about something. He wasn't thinking. He was waiting. During the drive, he barely talked, just stared at his screen, thumbs hovering like he was waiting for instructions. Each time the phone buzzed, he straightened slightly, inhaling like he was being cued. I watched all of it quietly. I knew what was coming. I just didn't know how messy it would get. When we arrived, the restaurant was warm, full of soft chatter and candlelight. The hostess smiled when she saw us, remembering us from our first date. Leo didn't notice. He was already looking down at his phone. We sat. I opened the menu. He opened the group chat. Every few minutes, he'd lock his phone quickly whenever I glanced up. I wasn't suspicious he was talking to another woman. I was suspicious he was talking to 3. Our food arrived. He stared at his plate like it was a math problem. He picked at it, barely eating. Twice, I paused mid-sentence because he wasn't listening, only to watch him blink, look up like he'd been caught, and paste on a smile. When my phone buzzed, I almost ignored it. Then I saw the name, Mara, Leo's sister. Her message. I don't want to ruin your night, but something feels off with him today. Please stay sharp. I read it twice. Then again, I didn't respond. I didn't want to tip him off. I put my phone down and watched him, really watched him. Every micro-expression, every nervous inhale, every flicker of guilt across his face. He wasn't present. He wasn't mine tonight. He belonged to whatever script was being typed into his messages. Halfway through the meal, his phone vibrated again. He flinched. Actually flinched. Then he unlocked his screen under the table. Whatever he read made his posture shift completely. Shoulders tightening, lips pressing into a line, knee bouncing under the table. He wasn't just reading. He was bracing. I leaned back, calm and unbothered, while he tried and failed to compose himself. He put his phone down deliberately, like he was placing explosives on the table. "Elena," he said, voice thin. I waited. He took a shaky breath. Then another. He looked at me like he was about to deliver a eulogy. "Can we talk about something?" I didn't rescue him, didn't soften the moment, didn't give him an easy out. I just nodded once. He seemed almost startled that I didn't fill the silence. Then he straightened his posture in a way that screamed performance, and he launched into it. His voice turned rehearsed. Word for word. "I've been thinking a lot about us, and I feel like we've grown apart. You don't fight for me the way someone truly would if they loved me. I need passion. I need someone who would do anything to keep me." Not his voice, not his cadence, not his emotions. A speech, a monologue, a loyalty test dressed up as heartbreak. When he finished, he stared at me wide-eyed, like he'd just pulled the fire alarm and was waiting to see if the sprinklers would burst. I folded my hands gently, then asked, "Who told you to say that?" He froze. "No one," he said too quickly. "That's how I feel." "Leo," I cut in, voice calm but precise. "Try again." His eyes flicked involuntarily toward the phone on the table. That was the confession. His friends were texting him in real time. Tessa, Belle, Nova, a trio of directors coaching him through his breakup performance. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't break. I just watched him. "Leo," I said softly but firmly, "what do you actually want?" He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He tried again, and failed every time. Because this wasn't his idea. This wasn't his desire. This wasn't his decision. He was reading lines someone else wrote. Finally, he whispered, "I just want—" But the sentence died in his throat, so I helped him. "If you're ending things," I said evenly, "then it's done." His head snapped up like I'd slapped him. "What, that's it? That's what you said you wanted." "No, Elena, wait." "For what?" I asked quietly. He stared, shocked, unprepared. "You're not even fighting for this," he said, voice breaking into frustration. "You don't throw your relationship off a cliff," I replied calmly, "and then complain I didn't dive after it." He went silent. Just silent. The server approached to ask if we needed anything. The poor guy looked like he'd stepped into radioactive emotional fallout. I handed him my card before he finished speaking. "I've got it," I said. Leo just stared at me like he was witnessing a plot twist he wasn't warned about. When the bill returned, I signed it, stood, and pushed my chair in gently. I looked at him one last time. "You made your choice," I said. "Own it." He reached out slightly, fingers trembling. "Elena, wait!" But he didn't know why I should wait, or what he wanted from me, or who he was without the script his friends had fed him. So I walked away, out of the restaurant, into the cool evening air, calm, steady, done. He was responsible for getting himself home now. He chose his advisors. He chose his script. He chose this ending. And I wasn't going to rewrite it for him. The fallout didn't wait until morning. It started within an hour of me walking out of the restaurant. At first, it was a few missed calls, then more, then texts, paragraphs, excuses, desperate backtracking dressed up as clarity. "You weren't supposed to take it seriously. It was just a test. We need to talk. You're misunderstanding everything." I didn't answer a single message, because I wasn't misunderstanding anything. He wasn't confused. He wasn't emotional. He wasn't overwhelmed. He had rehearsed a breakup. He had tried to provoke a reaction. And when he didn't get the one he wanted, he panicked. I went home, took a long shower, crawled into bed, slept harder than I had in months. The next morning, Mara called. Not texted. Called. And Mara never called unless the world was actively catching fire. When I picked up, she didn't even say hello. "What happened last night?" "It's over," I said simply. She exhaled sharply, like she'd been bracing for it. I was afraid of that. I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. My voice wasn't cracking. I felt still. "Don't apologize," I said when she started to. "He chose it." "No," Mara replied, voice soft but firm. "His friends chose it for him." I didn't respond. So she kept going. "Elena, I found something out this morning." She took a breath. "Someone they know told me Tessa and Nova were texting him during dinner. They told him exactly when to say it. They literally said, 'Do it before dessert so he won't confuse tonight with a good memory.'" My jaw tightened. Not from heartbreak, from confirmation. Everything I saw, the glances at his phone, the stiff shoulders, the sudden inhale before speaking, it all lined up too perfectly. It wasn't his idea, Mara said quietly. They pushed him into it. Yeah, I said, I figured. And I had. It didn't make it less pathetic or less unacceptable. What mattered wasn't that he followed bad advice. It was that he followed any advice that involved sabotaging our relationship. He didn't defend me. He didn't protect us. He didn't think for himself. He let his friends orchestrate a fake breakup like it was some social experiment. Are you okay? Mara asked gently. I'm fine, I said truthfully. It is what it is. And for the first time in months, I meant that. Because clarity can be a relief. Over the next few days, my phone turned into a machine gun. Message after message after message, rapid fire. Please talk to me. I didn't mean it like that. It wasn't supposed to go that way. You're being unfair. Can we reset? Can we start over? Please answer me. But I didn't owe him closure. He already got his ending, the one he orchestrated. Ignoring manipulation isn't cruelty. It's self-respect. By day 3, the messages doubled, then tripled. My friends said you'd fight for me, and you didn't. You're seriously giving up that easily? That last one made me laugh out loud. Giving up? I didn't give up. He ended it. I accepted it. That's all. That evening, Cale showed up unannounced. He didn't knock. He didn't text first. He barged into my apartment like my life was a live broadcast he needed front row seats to. He took one look at me relaxing on the couch and one look at the tsunami of unread messages on my phone. Then he grinned. So, he said, dropping onto the couch beside me, he failed his own exam, huh? I snorted. He failed before he even handed it in. Cale grabbed my phone, read one of Leo's frantic texts out loud in an overly dramatic tone, and shook his head. This, he said, waving the screen, is why people shouldn't take advice from friends whose longest commitments are their houseplants. He tossed my phone back and stretched out. I'm proud of you, though, he said more quietly. Most people would have folded the second he fake cried. He didn't cry, I said. Even worse, Cale replied. He rehearsed. Despite the jokes, his presence grounded me. He didn't minimize what happened. He didn't let me assign myself blame. He saw things exactly as they were and made it impossible for me to forget my worth. Later that night, Mara called again. Elena, she said, voice tired, he's been crying all day. I leaned back against my pillows. That's unfortunate for him. I told him he handled everything terribly, she continued. He didn't want to hear it. He still thinks his friends were trying to help. Of course he did. How are you feeling? She asked gently. I'm good, I said honestly. Really? She hesitated. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. I'm not, I admitted. It showed me everything I needed to see. And that was true. I would rather know the truth, even if it hurt, than live in ignorance. 2 weeks passed. Radio silence from me. A hurricane of desperation from him. Paragraphs. Late-night messages. Apologies shaped like guilt trips. Guilt trips shaped like apologies. Then one Thursday evening, someone knocked on my door. I checked the peephole. Leo, holding a cardboard box. Of course. I opened the door halfway. He lifted the box slightly. I brought you your favorite snacks. And a letter. Inside were chips I liked. The candy I always bought on road trips. A couple small things he'd picked up over the years. A peace offering built from panic. He didn't wait for an invitation. He stepped inside like he still had the right. Elena, I didn't mean the breakup, he said quickly. It wasn't real. I didn't think you'd actually walk away. You said it, I replied evenly. It was a test, he insisted. My friends said it would show how committed you were. And you listened to them. He blinked rapidly. They just wanted to help. They know. No, I cut in. They don't know anything. He swallowed hard. I know the speech sounded scripted, he said, but I didn't know how else to say it. That's the problem, I said calmly. You weren't saying anything real. You were repeating someone else's lines. His eyes filled, not with manipulation this time, but with clarity. The clarity of someone who finally realizes the full weight of what they've done. Please, he whispered, just read the letter. I looked at the folded paper in his hand. And you can explain right now, I said. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Again and again, just like at the restaurant. He had no actual reason, no actual feelings articulated, no actual understanding of why he let this happen. Just fear, regret, and the consequences he couldn't undo. Finally, he whispered, I messed up. Yeah, I said, you did. I can fix it. No, I said, steady as a heartbeat. You can't. He flinched. You're not even willing to try, he said quietly. You ended it, I repeated. I accepted it. That's it. His face crumpled, not theatrically, but genuinely. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. Like he expected the old version of me, the one who made things easy. He didn't get her back. He backed toward the door, holding the box like a shield. So this is really over? It ended, I said, the second you made it a game. He swallowed. Tried to speak. Failed. Then he nodded weakly and walked out. I didn't watch him leave. I closed the door, locked it, let the silence settle. No screaming, no begging, no chaos. Just quiet finality. For the first time since everything started unraveling, I felt completely, deeply done. The breakup hit Leo hard, but it hit his friend group harder. Not because they cared about me, not because they regretted what they'd done, but because without my relationship to meddle in, they turned their energy, predictably, onto each other. The same habits they used to sabotage us began to cannibalize their own lives. And honestly, I didn't have to lift a finger. Life unfolded exactly the way it needed to. I didn't check Leo's social media. I didn't ask Mara for updates. I didn't stalk anyone online. But even without trying, the fallout had a way of drifting back to me through mutual acquaintances. People talk, especially when drama implodes spectacularly. Tessa was the first to implode. About a month after the breakup, she started dating a guy from her job, someone quiet, steady, with the emotional availability of an adult. According to Mara and half the office, apparently, things were fine at first, until Tessa slid right back into detective mode. She interrogated him about why he used certain emojis, why he didn't respond within 5 minutes, why he liked his coworker's vacation photo, why he said maybe instead of probably, and why he sometimes ate lunch alone. Within 3 weeks, the guy ran for his life. And the best part? He told mutual coworkers. Dating her felt like being investigated by a federal agency. Tessa tried to spin the breakup as he was hiding something, but everyone around her already knew the truth. She hunted for red flags so aggressively that she created entire forests of them from thin air. Belle didn't fare any better. A mutual acquaintance set her up with a genuinely good guy, a teacher who volunteered on weekends, paid his bills early, and had the personality of a golden retriever. Poor man never stood a chance. If he took too long to text, she accused him of lying. If he hung out with his friends, she insisted there must be another woman. If he complimented her appearance, she demanded to know what he really meant. 2 weeks. That's all it took for him to walk. According to someone who witnessed the final conversation, he told her, "You're so busy trying to catch betrayal that you're creating it yourself." People started distancing themselves from her because the negativity was exhausting. And without an audience for her bitterness, Belle spiraled inward. Nova, her downfall was poetic. She developed a crush on a guy at her gym. Normal, grounded, the kind who drinks protein shakes and minds his business. Things seemed to be going well. They flirted, they exchanged numbers, they grabbed coffee twice. And then Nova decided to pull the same breakup test she pushed Leo to use on me. She told the guy, "I need space to think," fully expecting him to chase her, beg for clarity, prove his passion, fail the test she created. Instead, he simply said, "All right," then blocked her the next morning. Blocked, everywhere. Word spread quickly that she'd tried the same stunt she once orchestrated for Leo. And with that single piece of information, her whole relationship expert persona collapsed. People stopped asking her for advice, stopped entertaining her dramatic interpretations, stopped feeding the ego she built on other people's heartbreaks. Suddenly, Nova had no audience. Her entire worth, previously tied to orchestrating chaos, evaporated. The friend group implodes. According to Mara, because of course people reported back to her, their group chat turned into a battleground. Tessa blamed Nova for giving bad advice. Belle blamed Tessa for being controlling. Nova blamed both of them for ruining her credibility. Accusations flew, screenshots leaked, secrets were weaponized, old resentments surfaced. Within days, they unfollowed each other online, stopped meeting for brunch, and dismantled the same toxic alliance that had once felt unbreakable. They didn't just fracture, they combusted. Meanwhile, Leo was left standing alone in the rubble. No constant group chat noise, no cheerleading squad, no validation, no scripts to read, no distractions, just silence and consequences. Leo, after the dust settled. A couple weeks after the implosion, Mara called me, not to reopen anything, but because she respected the truth too much to hide it. She told me, "He finally admitted he messed up, not just with the breakup, but with believing them at all. He said he should have listened to you, to me. He knows he ruined something real." I didn't feel satisfaction. Not the petty kind. Just a calm confirmation of what I had already accepted. He didn't lose me because of a breakup. He lost me because he needed a committee to make decisions for him, because he cared more about how things looked than how they felt, because he didn't think for himself when it mattered most. Mara never tried to push reconciliation. She simply delivered the information, then added, "I hope you're doing better." And honestly, I was. My life, quiet and steady. Once Leo was out of my life, the quiet wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. I slept better, worked more consistently, stopped waking up with stress in my chest, started cooking again, went to the gym with actual energy, rediscovered hobbies I'd put aside. Everything in my life began to feel lighter, cleaner, quieter, and I didn't miss him. I missed the version of him who existed before his friends rewrote his script, before he treated me like an experiment, before he let insecurity masquerade as passion. But that version of him was gone long before the breakup. Kale, of course, was insufferably proud of me. He dropped by often, sometimes with takeout, sometimes with unsolicited commentary like, "Be proud of yourself. You deleted emotional parasites from your life." Or, "Imagine dating a dude whose best strategy for love is crowdsourced from 3 women whose relationships couldn't survive a free trial period." He made me laugh. He made things feel normal. He kept me grounded. Mara and I stayed in touch too. Not romantically, not secretly, just respectfully. She checked in occasionally to make sure I was doing well, and I appreciated her more than she'll ever know. She was the only one in Leo's life who saw what was happening clearly and said something before it was too late. But by then, the story had already written itself. The tests they encouraged, the manipulation they applauded, the games they endorsed. They didn't just break my relationship. They eventually destroyed every relationship in their own lives too. And there was nothing poetic or dramatic about that. Just truth revealing itself without my involvement. In the end, I didn't need revenge, or confrontation, or closure. Life took care of the karma, and all I had to do was walk away. 6 months after the breakup, I woke up one morning and realized something so simple, so quiet, I almost didn't recognize it. I felt like myself again. Not the anxious version of me who tiptoed around someone else's insecurities. Not the exhausted version who kept trying to hold a relationship steady while outside forces kept shaking it. Just me. Clear, steady, untangled. There were no dramatic epiphanies, no teary realizations in the middle of the night, no cinematic montage. Healing came quietly. In consistent sleep, in food that tasted good again, in the absence of dread, in the peace that settled into the corners of my apartment, in the mornings where I woke up and didn't brace for impact. I had space, finally, for the version of myself who didn't need to fight for emotional clarity every day. Work picked up. A few new clients reached out. A bigger brand hired me for a logo refresh. Projects flowed smoothly. My creativity felt sharper. My focus came back. Turns out, removing emotional chaos is great for productivity. Who knew? My apartment felt different too. Not emptier, not lonelier. Just cleaner. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm, when everything is washed and cool and new again. Kale, of course, remained himself. If anything, he doubled down on being the sarcastic, emotional support gremlin he's always been. Every time he visited, he'd roast Leo's breakup script for sport. "Imagine needing a group chat to break up with your girlfriend," he'd say, while eating snacks from my pantry. "Peak cowardice. Zero originality." Or, "You should teach a masterclass, how to walk away from idiocy with elegance." At one point, he showed up with a t-shirt he'd had custom printed. "No more group project boyfriends." He insisted I wear it to brunch. I did not. But I laughed harder that day than I had in months. Mara stayed in my life too. Not constantly, not intrusively, just steady, respectful check-ins. She never once tried to rekindle anything between Leo and me. Never dipped into guilt or nostalgia. She simply cared about my well-being the way a decent human being does. When one day over coffee she said, "I want to tell you something, not to change your mind, not to reopen anything, but because you deserve the truth." I nodded for her to continue. Leo admitted he let them influence him. He said he didn't realize how much he relied on them to validate his choices until everything blew up. I sat quietly. "He said losing you was the wake-up call he didn't want but needed," she added. I didn't feel satisfaction, or victory, or a desire to run back. Just a soft ache. Because sometimes regret arrives too late to fix anything. Mara must have seen something in my face because she said, "You don't owe him anything. Not forgiveness. Not a second chance. Not even a conversation. I just didn't want you to think he walked away without understanding what he did." I nodded, grateful but unmoved. Understanding your mistake doesn't undo the damage. It just explains it. Clarity brings peace, not longing. I didn't miss the chaos. I didn't miss the guessing games. I didn't miss the emotional puzzles his friends created. I missed the version of Leo from before the interference, but that version of him didn't survive the pressure of his own insecurity or the voices he let steer him. And I wasn't going to resurrect a relationship by myself. I went on with my life, worked, cooked new recipes, started lifting again at the gym, learned how to make the perfect iced matcha, reorganized my pantry alphabetically. Don't judge. Healing takes many forms. Somewhere along the way, the version of me who existed before him returned. Stronger, clearer, more protective of her peace, less willing to negotiate her worth. Then Mara said something that tied everything together. We were at her apartment, sitting on the floor, sorting through old boxes. She found a picture of Leo and handed it to me without thinking. I glanced at it, then handed it back. "You really don't miss him, do you?" she asked quietly. I considered the question carefully. "I miss what I thought he was," I answered, "but I don't miss him." She nodded, slow, understanding. "That," she said, "means you're healed." And she was right. Healing isn't when you stop crying. It's when you stop imagining alternate endings. It's when you stop replaying the breakup, or wishing you'd said something different, or wondering if they'll come back. It's when you finally understand. A person who tests you isn't ready for you. A person who needs you to prove your loyalty doesn't trust themselves. A person who lets others dictate your relationship doesn't deserve to be in one. Where I stand now. I'm not rushing into dating. I'm not avoiding it either. If the right person comes along, someone grounded, consistent, self-aware, I'll welcome it. I'll open that chapter when it arrives. But what I will never do again, accept love that depends on tests, settle for someone whose friends hold more influence than I do, or confuse chaos with passion. The truth is simple. I would rather be alone in peace than partnered in confusion. Final reflection. Looking back, the breakup wasn't the worst thing that happened to me. Staying with someone who let others steer our relationship would have been. Leaving wasn't a loss, it was preservation. Growth. A return to myself. And that's something I wouldn't trade for anything. If you're still reading this, thank you. And if you've ever been in a relationship where you were tested, questioned, or pushed into a game you never agreed to play, choose yourself. Choose your peace. Choose the version of you who deserves better. Because once you do, your entire life feels different, calmer, cleaner, yours again.